Salute, Knicks Nation. Let's talk about this one as the New York Knicks drop game 2 at MSG and are in a trail 0-2 in the series headed back to Indiana. Frustrating night overall. Let's break it down. Salute to the chat. Knicks therapy tonight for the diehards and tough situation to be in. We talked about game 1, the consequences that losing that game would have, and the Knicks came out. The Garden crowd was amazing. The energy was in the building, but this game, as you see, wire to wire. As we get into it and break this thing down, there was a lot of swing plays tonight, especially late, as the Knicks made a furious run, but they were hamstrung with some poor defensive lineups. The starting five, most importantly, the starting five continues to be the killer in the minus tonight. Credit to Indiana. Execution matters in the playoffs. It's two good teams versus each other, and the team that executes the best generally gets through. The Knicks had their chance in game 1. We'll talk about that for a long, long time. Not going to stew on it too much tonight, but it is what it is. You have to take game 1. The Knicks blew that one, and they blew tonight. They had a decent lead. As we get through it all, my initial thoughts are the start of the fourth quarter with the non-Brunson minutes. That was the stark difference, guys. The non-Brunson minutes in game 1 was phenomenal. And the Knicks that gave the Knicks the lead and a great chance to win that game. Tonight we didn't get that, and that's always a dicey proposition when you don't win the non-Brunson minutes. Campaign struggle, Karl Anthony Towns struggle. You see the wire to wire. That second quarter, the Knicks had great momentum, man. Up, I think 7 or 8. Yeah, largest lead was 7. Mitchell Robinson, once again, fantastic early in the game. The Knicks had that momentum, but gave it back when Robinson went back to the bench. Narrow halftime lead as well. My second killer tonight was the Knicks had a 3-point lead at the half. The start of the third quarter, it really killed the Knicks tonight. The Pacers went on I think it was a 6-0 run or a 5-0 run to start the third, and they basically had the lead in an instant, despite the Knicks leading it by 3 at the half. And then we get to the start of the fourth quarter. I mean, you can see there all the yellow. The Pacers made a great run to start the fourth, and it just felt like the Knicks were just climbing uphill, man, all night. The Pacers did a much better job hunting the switches tonight, and they capitalized. Obviously the Knicks got some luck with some possessions and some stops, but when Indiana play at the pace they were getting fast break buckets too easily, man. 14 fast break points to the New York Knicks 7. We'll look at bigger picture stuff in a minute, guys. I see you coming through the building. Appreciate you for joining us. This is Therapy Tonight. We could talk about Tibbs, talk about the rest of the series. The series ain't over till it's over. I think the Knicks' mission should be to focus on just getting one in Indiana, bring it back to Madison Square Garden for a game 5, and then you force a game 6. And then basically exactly what Boston did to us. Maybe you can force Indiana into some folly, but you need to force a game 6. We'll force a game 5. I know a lot of people are down. A lot of people are down, and the series is done. I'm not giving up on this team at the moment, but obviously they are in a giant hole right now, and Tibbs is going to have to come up with some major adjustments in terms of playing the starting lineups less, and we'll see. I won't be shocked if we can win a game on the road. If we play the correct lineups, anything can happen. We see tonight, every single game has been a major swing. Neither team can really say that they dominate the other team for large stretches. In fact, if I line up the 8 quarters over the 2 games, I think the Knicks probably, were well on top for 4 quarters. And Indiana Pacers were well on top for probably 4 or 5 quarters, however way you want to see it. But unfortunately, game 1 ended the way it did because of the collapse in the fourth quarter. Tonight, the Pacers were the better team in this one, but even then, the Knicks had a lot of chances. I think Pascal Siakam was the difference. They allowed a lot more physicality tonight. as well. They went with the hacker Mitch. That hurt us. But we're going to bring up some other statistics as the Knicks, again, too many turnovers. I thought turnovers in the first half kind of bedeviled us, and we weren't able to get a lead, any comfortability in this one. 26 assists for Indiana to 18 for New York. Obviously, that's a big factor there. Rebounding for Indiana, that was a lot closer tonight. But 5-point game, the Knicks just ran out of road, man. They ran out of time. 47% from the field is solid. 34% from downtown was the killer. And 43% from Indiana, man. Too many botched assignments. As we look at Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press says, this is the first time in Knicks history that we've now lost 5 home games in a single postseason, ladies and gentlemen. So making history on the wrong end. Thibodeau, this squad, obviously got to live with a lot of things. Game 1. But yeah, it stems from round 1 against Detroit. The Knicks not able to assert their dominance. That's been the story of the season so far, regular season to now. There's times when we look like the better team, and then there's times that we look inferior, and it's just been inconsistent. Lineup, something's going to give in the offseason no matter what, right? We've got a couple of defensive subpar players, Brunson and Cat. Josh Hart, which is a Swiss Army knife, obviously in the playoffs, he's had some amazing performances. We need more offense out of OG. Solid game from Bridges tonight. But again, defensively, it just kills you. Karl Anthony Towns, the defense tonight, it was night and day between him and Mitchie. Dave McManaman, ESPN, says the last team to come back from down 2-0 in a series to win, it was the Indiana Pacers against us last year in the Eastern Conference semis. And so it can be done. 2-0 ain't 3-0, but you better come out and season on the line game 3. If you can win game 3, it opens a lot of possibilities for game 4. Injuries can happen, but we'll see. Thibodeau is coaching for his potential future with the squad. Some of the players will be playing for their Knick future as well. Let's see what happens in game 3, man. But something's got to adjust because we can't keep playing the same lineups. The starting 5 is in a real minus funk. And Thibodeau talked about it pre-game, the Knicks being minus 60 something in the postseason in the plus minus, and basically Thibodeau brushed it off and said, look, they're playing with different lineup. The lineups are jumbled up and all of that. But his loyalty continues to unwaver with the starting 5, man. And a season on the line, he's going to have to make an adjustment with this situation. Let me get through the building. Big Dave, M. Jean, Lily Phillips, salute. Buzzer beater, great to see you. Elliot, Daniel Berry, Groovy, what's good? Johnny, what's good? Jazzman, appreciate you coming through the building. Mets Knicks, Danny Landers, Peter, what's good? Chance, Nice in the house, AD, and Jimmy. You guys keeping it real like always, man. There's no correct way to react after this situation, man. Game 1 was ours. We let it slip. The series ain't over yet, but fair play to Indiana. I mean, they're a tough team. It's one thing to say, it's 50-50 or we were the favorites, but you can't make errors. A lot of unforced errors and great execution from Indiana combine for that recipe of disaster right now. And I think Indiana, they're a very well-rounded team. They rely less on certain individuals. Now, that can only get you so far, in my opinion. I don't think Indiana would beat Oklahoma. I'm not trying to sound salty right now. I think either of these two teams would be the heavy underdog. But Indiana continue to prove people wrong. I think it's good for the league in terms of, top-heavy star power. they're showing teams that you don't need to, max out three guys to have a chance of winning. You bring in some good rookies, some shooting, less ball dominance, and that's prevailing. But look, this series should be 1-1. The Knicks did a lot of things correct in game one. Tonight was well below. The Knicks had some momentum tonight with the Mitchell Robinson lineups, and then they just threw it away when Cat got back into the game. Obviously, I don't know how many minutes Mitch can play, but the fact that he was a +6 in 29 minutes and we lost the game, Cat -20. Tonight's the night where box score watching plus minus doesn't lie. M. Jean says game one hurts much more with game two loss. Yeah, it does. You take your foot off the gas, man, for 3 minutes at the end of game one. But look, if the ride was to end in this series, we had a lot of luck go our way in the Boston series. So eventually, the road is going to run out. You have to capitalize in these moments and execute. But look, we got a bunch of dogs in that locker room, and they won't want their season to end in a sweep or gentleman's sweep. So let's force a game six. All it takes is to win one in Indiana. Just win one in Indiana, and then you allow the fans back into MSG for a game five, right? You win game five, and then you bring it to Indianapolis for a game six, for basically kind of winner might take all. Maybe you can force a game seven, right? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but like I said, we've seen some crazy things. I think this series has been far more even than the other series. Jimmy says, let's be real. It's over with this stubborn coach. It might be. And he certainly should be playing the starters less. I agree with most people. However, it's, he's dealing with certain restrictions, maybe with Mitch, being gassed. I mean, he played McBride. McBride was up and down tonight. He let us down, man, with that critical turnover as well. I think that was a key pivotal swing too, fam. The Knicks had plenty of time in the game to make that run. I think it was only 5 or 6. McBride, dribbled it out of bounds, and that was the killer. So, look, bench made errors. Starters were poor. Brunson was here heroic towards the end, but too little too late. Once again, we're up against a real good team, and you can't make many errors, fam. PH says Rick Carlisle went deep into his bench. Tibbs will never change and adapt. Yeah, I think that on point, I agree in terms of regular season as well. I think if you had given, Huck Porty more minutes during the regular season, maybe a Kolek, Dardier, maybe you see those guys' confidence grow and maybe you can play them. This is the third round now, guys, guys are even more gassed. You see OG shots. I mean, 2 of 6 from downtown ain't awful, but you just see OG missed a couple of critical open threes that he normally hits. Carlene and Jamie in the house, salute. Nice says Tibbs don't adjust. It does not matter if with 0-3, Tibbs won't do anything different. I think tonight he should have adjusted in game, and I think that's one of Thibodeau's biggest weaknesses and frustrations for me. But if you look at it, most coaches give the first 2 games before they'll make a major adjustment. Considering we dominated a lot of game one, but tonight Thibodeau should have made an in-game adjustment. I can't hate him for starting the same starters because how game one went, but he should have adjusted during the game, man. That third quarter, the fourth quarter, we lost it. We had the home team, we had the crowd, we had momentum. We had so many things, man. I think the third and fourth quarters were awful tonight, man. We even got the lead a little. You see in the third, I think the Knicks got a 3-point lead in the third quarter, but then we just gave it right back, man. TJ McConnell, he was running down the court, open layup off a make. Obi, open transition off a make. I think that's legs, that's lack of focus. And yeah, Indiana just want to continue to run. Look, no excuses. We're fully healthy. If we lose this series, we have to assess our expectations because Knicks were favourites in this series, and I believe we have the stronger roster, but it's close. But Indiana are out executing. But it really should be 1-1. You know, if you're an Indiana fan and you disagree, then I think that's sort of not being realistic. I think this series should be 1-1. Indiana stole game one, but we did the same thing to Boston, right? You got to come back, you got to come correct and make up for it. And the Knicks did not. The Knicks did not tonight. A lot of concerns. I've voiced my concerns over playing at MSG. This is the first time in franchise history the Knicks have lost 5 playoff games in a single postseason run. So something ain't right. This team's lacked focus all season. Losing on Legends Night to Detroit during the regular season, losing to the Charlotte Hornets, losing to the Utah Jazz. I think a lot of it is on Tibbs and not playing these dudes. Larson says lose 2 at home is really, really bad. It didn't look like game 1 was kind of staying with them. I think they buried that, to their credit. Every game's a new day. Let Indiana start to feel confident. I don't care, let them get ahead of themselves. If we win game 3, it's series back on. If Indiana win game 3, it's just a matter of whether it's going to be a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. But if we can take game 3, then it opens the door again right now. I mean, we are a better road team than home team, guys. I guess that is a silver lining. It's unfortunate. But if anyone's capable, the Knicks can do it on the road. But yeah, it's going to be tough. Rice says Pacers look relaxed. Knicks look tired tonight. Tight. Yeah, I think it's definitely, as the series gets longer, it could be even more tough. Hidalgo says Payne was awful, out of control, dribbling out of bounds. Just sad. Yeah, that was a tough turnover from Payne. Awful minutes from Cam Payne tonight, once again. And I think he probably... It's tough because we need more bodies, man. What do? Take him out of the rotation? We'll talk about that in a second. What kind of adjustments for game 3? DeLon Wright comes to mind. Buzzer says, where was the whistle? Yeah, they swallowed the whistle again tonight. Just one of those things where the NBA is just really inconsistent game to game. Look at the Thunder series. You breathe on SGA and it's a foul. On us. If you're a Neesmith, you're basically allowed to ride Brunson like you're his woman. It's insane. Jazzman says beating Boston was our peak, maybe this year. Long way to go still, but if the journey was to end with this series, missed opportunities, game 1, but obviously I don't think the Knicks were expected to win a chip this year, but it'll be a great missed opportunity. I mean, Thunder look amazing right now. I mean, the Timberwolves are a pretty decent team. They're basically making them look like, pathetic. They're making them look like they can't hang. But look, the series can swing when it goes back to Minnesota. But for us, we're going to have to do the unthinkable, man, against all odds. Freeway, salute. Says, salute CT. This coach will not take us to the promised land. He's too rigid. And Johnny says, Mitch was on fire, unlike other Knicks. Yeah, look, real positive signs, to take away into the future with Mitchell Robinson, man. I want him back on this roster next season, whatever happens. Play him more in game 3. Like you guys said, Carlisle had to adjust. They had to put Tony Bradley out there, man. I don't know if I've ever seen Tony Bradley before, man. And I'm not talking Tony Bradley, the boxer. I'm talking about the Indiana Pacer big man. I mean, they were clutching at straws. Mitch was so dominant, man. Proud of Mitch. Obviously, the free throws are the concern. I mean, how much can you live with Mitch on the floor late in a game? I mean, let's picture this was the NBA Finals, game 7, fourth quarter. What are they going to do if they hack a Mitch? He's got to improve. He's got to come back next season and be a 65-70% shooter. Talk Rick Barry wants to get with Mitch, and practice the underarm, man. If I'm Mitch, I gotta I've got to be open to anything right now because he's so dominant. If he can just stay on the floor and stay out of foul trouble. I think he started to make errors. Siakam gave him the okey doke, got Mitchie up in the air. I thought that foul was a killer because we were trying to make a run. Siakam got that and one. Mitchie's fatigue, maybe, he was gassed, so he started to make some mistakes, but he was awesome tonight. Nice says, hey, Tibbs, what about Huck? Yeah, I agree. I think Huck should, see some minutes. I mean, he can switch really well. We're seeing that. He can stay in front of dudes with his physicality. He can rebound. Let's see. I would like to see Delon Wright. The more switchable players. If you want to do a switchable scheme, guys, the more switchable players you have, the better. You know, even if you need to go 4 guard lineups and Mitchie, like just ultra switch. I know the double big lineup can be really good with rebounding, but we missed a couple of critical offensive rebounds. So late down the stretch, I would have gone with an ultra switchable lineup and just gone with that. DeLon Wright, I think, needs to play over Cam. What do you guys think, man? Peter says 7-man rotations don't work anymore, bro. Yep. And Caroline and Jamie says Tibbs won't be the coach next year. Bad time management. I think there'll be a full off-season review. Obviously, Tibbs has shown he can make adjustments. He's just too slow, too late making adjustments, And look, while we talk a little bit about the Boston series, that might be the highlight of our season. It might not, if we get through this. But regardless, that was a great triumph for adjustment. But it was a thing that, game 1, game 2 went our way. Game 1, this series went against our way. You can only continue to ride your luck for so long. We were down 20 against Boston twice, and yeah, we out-schemed them. Thibodeau deserves credit for duping Missoula into the isolation, 3-point heavy offense, which allowed us to capitalize. But the switchable defensive scheme is going against Tibbs's preferred option. So we've got to see what he's willing to do for next season. Right now, we don't really have a lot of switchable big lineups in terms of with Cat. It's sad if you want to have to bench Cat in the fourth quarter of every single game. It's sustainable, but it's not sustainable. You have to figure out a solution to that. Maybe you bring in another offensive center that can defend a little bit and have Mitch as the backup next season, and they play next to Cat. He didn't play the double big lineups enough during the season to get a proper sample. Now he's having to rely on it like his life depended on it. Big Kappa says Mitchie was hopping around. His foot gonna swell up in the morning. Yeah, these guys laid it all out there tonight, man. I can't fault the effort. They played like their season was on the line, even though it kind of isn't yet. But it basically is so important to win tonight. It was just we went into a hole too far. You're playing against a good team that executed. Too many bunnies we gave up. Mid-range open looks from Siakam, from TJ, and then those back-breaking missed assignments, the threes, the Turner 3 in the corner, the Aaron Neesmith above the break 3 killed us as well. Anthony says Knicks fans are getting bad karma for throwing trash at the Pacers fan. I mean, I believe in karma. It can come around in different ways, but it'd be tough if the rest of the fan base were to be on the wrong end just because of what a few stupid people did. I don't think that's the case in this instance. I think the Knicks should have took care of business in game 1, man. M. Jean says it, man. Game 1 hurts much more with the game 2 loss. Yeah, everything's under a microscope, in the playoffs. You look back on all the bad Knicks moments and memories, man. We came within like that from the Starks game 7, Patrick finger roll, Charles Smith, Chicago, missed layups, Reggie Miller, choke, all of that. It comes down to just not executing when you have the chance. Game one will forever haunt us, if we don't win this series right now. But yeah, with 3 runs, four rounds to win the chip, you can't just rely on luck. Your luck is going to run out at some point. You have to be the better team and execute. That's why they make this thing a 7-game series, because eventually the better team is going to win. And the story of the night, I think, is that, Carlisle going deep into his bag. I mean, he's bringing out dudes that I didn't even have on this graphic. He's going so deep into his bag that before this series, when I did this graphic of the situationals from Indiana, I mean, I didn't even think to put Bradley out there. Shepherd is doing his job. We haven't even seen Jarvis Walker at all. Obi's doing his role. TJ McConnell's doing his role. I mean, he's probably out. We're losing on too many matchups in this series right now. I mean, Turner ain't even really killing us. I think Cat defensively, it's I got to be careful when saying this, but Cat offensively has been awesome. Cat offensively has been way better than Turner, but unfortunately defensively has just been awful. After tonight, Pascal Siakam probably having a better series than OG. Brunson and Neesmith probably split, because Neesmith won them game one. Tyrese Halliburton and Mikal Bridges probably split. Halliburton helped win game one, though. Nemhard's probably having a better series than Josh Hart. Mitchie's winning our battle against Thomas Bryant. Obi's beating whoever he's matched up on. Campaign's losing to Mathurin. That's why we're down in this series right now. Just too many players are just down. Right? They've got to look themselves in the mirror and look at their matchup and say, I got to win my matchup. Right? Forget about what my teammate is doing. I got to win my matchup. I got to beat the dude that I'm matched up against on offense and defense. We ain't doing that right now, man. All of our flaws in this roster are definitely coming on full effect against this, offensively rounded team. Indiana aren't good defensively. They're just doing enough, I think. They're doing enough. I mean, we look at both games, fam. We lose tonight by 5 points. We lose game one by, 3 points with a miracle comeback. I mean, there's not a lot between these two teams. I mean, if we just executed a bit better, we played better lineups, we might be the one winning this series. So, I think this series is coming down to coaching. We all knew our flaws, our strengths. Thibodeau knows them. But right now, Carlisle is pushing the right buttons, fam. Randy says Pacers have so many guys you never really know where it's coming from. Brunson can only do so much. Yeah, great point. Great point, Randy. I think I feel like we still have maybe a higher ceiling in terms of I believe you need a couple of stars down the stretch to win you a chip. But, we keep doubting Indiana. Maybe they could pull off the unthinkable, but I think Oklahoma would comfortably handle Indiana. I just think the Knicks defense they've got our defense switching and lost right now. Yeah, David M says it. Giannis, if you're watching, we need you, buddy. Giannis he's been hanging out in New York City. It's going to be a big off season, however way the season ends, right? One of the things I'm most confident about heading after this year is that we will be a contender, I think, for years to come. I think we've got improvements we can make. Our bench, obviously, we're going to be able to trade a few picks once July 1st hits and the new CBA comes in, the new CBA year. We can trade another pick. We can strengthen the squad. We've got a lot of good guys under contract. Indiana, I don't know of their cap situation, but the East is going to be so wide open next season. But right now, I'm focused on this season still. but we're blowing a great opportunity, man, to get to the NBA Finals. Um, Nice says the best player that we have as of right now is Mitch and Deuce. Every time they come on the floor, they change the momentum. Yeah, two-way players, man. Two-way players, nice. If you can collect as many two-way players, that'll give you a chance to win. Right now, Brunson's just so good offensively that, you deal with that. But obviously, if you have more Kawhi Leonards, you have more Giannis's, you have more, um, Shays, SGAs, you have more Jokers, you have a better chance of winning, with guys that can play both sides. Now, what the Knicks have been forced to do is because they've got Cat and they've got JB, they've had to bring in some specialists, defensive specialists. But Mikal Bridges has really shown that he's more than a one-sided player this postseason. I mean, I think Bridges can hold his head up high. I think he's played some of his best basketball of the season. OG Anunoby, I think, has been, a plus, this season as well. The heart, it comes down to the heart situation for me. That's the glaring, adjustment. I think, whether you get Deuce in there for next season or the rest of this playoff run, but next season, Josh Hart can't be a starter on this squad. It pains me to say. He can play starters minutes. He can be the sixth man. He could be a guy that maybe plays heavy minutes down the stretch still. But can he be a starter on a championship team? I think we need another bucket getter, another two-way player on that side of the floor. And I think that's going to open things up for Cat, for Brunson. It's going to open things up so much more because they're having to fight, through doubles. Guys cheating off Hart. They're having to do so much. But so far, I think, the margins are so fine, man, when you're going up against these tough teams right now. PACERS, I think they're going to be contenders. I just don't think they're going to finish with Tibbs. PACERS CT, you ought to check out the payrolls in the coming years. That should help you an idea. Maybe you can do a show on that. Yeah, we will. Definitely. We'll do major content coming in because, this is the start of something. I've said it all season, A lot of people are going to be down, and fair enough, Nobody hates to lose. Everybody hates losing. I get it. We should be beating the PACERS. This is a golden opportunity after they sent us home last season. But right now, you got to call it like it is. They took game one. They stole it. They were the better team tonight. But Carlisle's been the better coach. The buck stops with the coaching right now. We outcoached Boston with Tibbs and Missoula. That's why we were able to get here. Right now, we might be sent packing because Rick Carlisle is just making the most of what he has. Thibodeau ain't making the most of what he has, man. I think Ariel Huckporty should have played a bit tonight, man. I mean, if they're playing Tony Bradley, why can't Huckporty get a run for 5 minutes? Impact defensively, grab some boards, switch. DeLon Wright should have been playing ahead of Cam, 2 series back. Campaign hadn't had a good game since game 1 of the playoffs against Detroit. We used up a lot of pent-up energy early. We couldn't even get separation too. PH says they didn't come out as angry as a team. That's on Tibbs too. Yeah, I think that's something we've got to address too. We need a few more killers in terms of mindset. I think every time this team sort of gets comfortable, they let their guard down. They let slip. And I think that's a fitting way if our season ends that, we'll end with maybe a game 1 regret, that we let our guard down. I mean, how do you think Cleveland feel? I mean, Cleveland were a better team than us this regular season, and Indiana sent them packing because they let their guard down, and Indiana execute down the stretch. I think, Indiana obviously aren't the greatest team ever, that's obvious, but they have so many bodies that maybe they're able to execute better late because everybody's more fresh. The less fatigue you have, the more fresh you are to think clearly, execute the plays and all of that. Maybe that is a study that other teams are going to start to try to follow. Tibbs is going old school with 7 men. Carlisle's kind of going extreme the other way. He's going like, no, I'm playing 11 men, 12 men. You know, um, yeah, I completely forgot about Precious too. No disrespect to Precious, he should be playing as well. Appreciate it, David. Hucker or Precious. Cat was giving up so much on the defensive end. Yeah. Look, this time of year, players are dealing with things that they're not going to also talk about. Cat's been dealing with a broken finger for a minute. He's probably feeling gassed as well. It's been a long season. He's had knee issues throughout the season as well. There's only so much he can move right now. We're employing the switchable scheme. That's putting a lot of strain on these dudes, man. No wonder they look tired offensively. 18 assists tonight to the Pacers, 26 assists. But yeah, you can't give up 39 to Pascal Siakam. I was kind of feeling really proud about our effort on Siakam game one. Siakam wasn't a factor at all, and I thought, hey, we're going to win this series no matter what. If we can keep Siakam in check. But lo and behold, Siakam adjusted next game. He came out. He balled out. He played like an all-star. Tonight did Siakam. Turner got 2 blocks. Mitchie got 3. Brunson finished with 11 dimes. Tyrese had 11 as well. And Mitchie with 9 rebounds, man. It's tough, man. Pacers are a tough team. They play fast. I think a 1-1, I'm just really depressed that 1-1 would have been a really accurate, fitting, situation to be heading back to Indianapolis. 1-1, I think that would have been fair. Both teams had their fair share of the advantage. But that's not the case. Indiana stole game 1, and the Knicks are going to have to grit their teeth and do something miraculous now and get that back. There's still 2 more to play. Let's see if Indiana let their guard down. Drew reviews music. Salute. Says CT Huck Pority should have been playing all season, like I've been saying. Yeah, that's fair. I think next season all cards are on the table. Kolek, Huck Pority. I mean, could Kolek do any worse than Cam? Cam looks really down right now. His confidence is down. His confidence is down, which is tough. He had such a great start to the postseason, but look, the clock hits midnight, man, and a lot of these players' flaws come to highlight, and they turn into a pumpkin, man. Cam Payne is a veteran minimum player. He's been done a solid job for us throughout the season. But if you're really relying on him when it's the business time of the season, you get what you pay for in the end, man. It's like shopping at Temu or a Wish, and buying a flat screen TV, man, and expecting it to be as good as, a Samsung, a Sony, flat screen TV. You get what you pay for in the end. No shade at Cam Payne, but he was a veteran minimum guy for a minute. I think the Knicks mindset as an organization needs to shift to prioritizing these draft picks, because a lot of these other franchises are doing that. We're not doing that enough. And that's ultimately a blight on Thibodeau. That's one of the reasons that I want Thibodeau gone. If he had got us to the finals, things would change. But great series against Boston, but we did get a bit of luck. To get to the next step, you have to adjust. You see Oklahoma, they're playing so many rookies and young players, draft picks. Look at Denver. They played Julian Strother. They played the dudes down the stretch to help them overcome. Look at Minnesota. Minnesota should be playing a few more guys, I think. But Indiana, they're playing more guys as well. Um, we picked up some great picks in the draft. Let's see what happens next season. But I think we need to shift our mindset as an organization, prioritize some of these draft picks for the future, just so they can get better and better. Campaign is not going to get better. He is what he is right now. If we gave Kolek 50 games, who knows? He might be balling out. He might be all rookie second team, first team. Who knows? You never know. But Thibodeau, he treats the regular season like the be all end all. Major news today: the All NBA teams have been announced, man. And on a somber note, our guys deserve their flowers tonight. Jalen Brunson, unable to make NBA first team, however, finishes at All NBA second team, fam. Together with Steph, Ant-Man, LBJ, and Evan Mobley as well. What are your thoughts on that, guys, on the second team? First team, Jason Tatum, Spider, the Joker, SGA, and Giannis. Can't disagree. I think it's a toss-up. JB had an amazing season, but I think second team's quite fair. These guys killed it in the regular season, especially Spider and Tatum out in the East. Last but not least, Karl Anthony Towns comes in, makes his All-NBA third team accolade, together with Cade, Tyrese, James Harden. Harden had a great season, so that's not a surprise. But Cat and J Dub, or J Will, I think. So yeah, they're our guys. Congrats to them. Much deserved. Two All NBA players that carried us throughout the regular season. But I think at times we're just too reliant on those guys. Frustrating night for Deuce, OG. I thought Bridges can hold his head up high. I thought Deuce and OG, sorry, missed some big shots. I think maybe fatigue starting to come in. AP says congrats to them making the whole NBA. PH says Dadier can play D, and he's 6'8". Yeah, I'm looking forward to see Dadier for next season. Drew Review says the team coached properly should have won over 55 games. Yeah, that's possible. I think. Excuse me. I think the Brunson injury hurt. I think missing 17 games, even though we were above 500, I think we would have won more games with JB healthy. But we can't complain about health. We had a pretty healthy season. If Mitchie plays. Think about if Mitch plays November, December, January, February. With now what we know, what Mitchell Robinson can do with the rest of these new players as a squad, I think look out next year, man. I think the Knicks will be eyeing a top 2 seed for sure next season. But look, you can't count your chickens. You just never know. One of the things that frustrated me most, looking back in game 1, guys, was this non-call, this review. Look at that picture. Yes, Brunson made that pass where he should have held on to the ball, but OG fumbled the ball but got fouled. Siakam hit the ball first, then got the arm, but as you see with the left hand, he was pulling OG's jersey, and that caused OG to kind of fall off balance, and the Pacers got the ball. And then after the challenge call, Carlisle, that's another reason, Carlisle's winning this series over Tibbs. He saved his challenge calls in the first game. Tibbs has gone through 2 rounds now. He should know better to just save the challenge until the final moments of the game. But regardless, the referees definitely stooged the Knicks. That's a clear foul. Pulling OG's jersey in game 1. The referees took 6 minutes to review that, and they deemed that there was a non-foul on Siakam. because he touched the ball first. I mean, that's one of the things that frustrates me about the NBA. It's crazy, right? As long as you slap the ball, you can do whatever you want after that. You can slap the ball and then you can clock the dude in the face with your elbow if you like. If you swipe the ball, you can punch them in the stomach after that if you like. It doesn't matter as long as you touch the ball first. It doesn't make much sense. But I mean, game one is what it is. This team will learn. They'll have maybe the whole off season to think about it. To their credit, they did bury that tonight. They came out. They were focused on tonight's game. The lineups killed us tonight, but if we lose the series, they will be thinking about it, man, all off season right now. But I can't really talk about luck, bad luck, because Boston series. I mean, we had two of the biggest comebacks in NBA history, fam, back to back in Boston. We got us to this situation, and you got to capitalize, man. You just got to capitalize, man. You can't turn the ball over. We had our moments. I thought we started okay. We just didn't get as much momentum tonight because Indiana executed. They looked at some film. They got our guys switching a lot more. I think we guarded the three better tonight. That's the thing. The funny thing is, the game that we guarded the three better, we lose. The game that we did not guard the three, we deserve to really win. So that's the crazy nature of the playoffs. And yeah, I think this series comes down to some fine margins, coaching. I think a couple of more guys that they can depend on, and some of our guys just have to step up. Cam Payne had a solid game one, keeping us above float. Right now, when Brunson's off the floor, I'm looking at Deuce, I'm looking at Cat to be leaders out there. OG, Bridges, got to protect the basketball and score the rock. Mario says Huck is in Tibbs's doghouse. Yeah, I think Huck had some chances throughout the season, but then he got the injury that set him back. And yeah, I think it was going to be tough to get back into the rotation after that meniscus surgery. But he's been healthy for a minute since the playoffs started. He should have been getting some opportunities now. Even if it's 3-4 minutes, throw him out there, throw his weight around, grab a rebound, block a shot. Just rely on some more guys. I mean, part of me is thinking, guys, what do you think? Let's say if we won this series and we were face Oklahoma in the playoffs, it'd probably be a sweep. It'd probably be a 5-1 gentleman, 4-1 gentleman sweep, just like it was against San Antonio, because we'll probably be super gassed right now. You got to get through 4 rounds, 14 wins, 16 wins, sorry, to win a chip. David M says, Indy is in our heads dating back to Game 7. Last season, they were stomping on us. I don't think they're in our heads, really. I think it's a case of their strengths really help them against our weaknesses, whereas our strengths, can have success against their weaknesses. We can be a great offensive team and they're not a great defensive team. But I think their strength really is bad for our weakness in terms of fast pace, slowing down our offense with their full court pressure. They're able to guard us like a college team, and pick us up full court. I mean, I think we'd be dominant let's say Indiana didn't have the personnel to pick Brunson up full court. I think the Knicks would be dominating this series. I think that's one of the biggest differences. They can put Neesmith, Nembhard, TJ, all of these guys that just pick Brunson up full court. It just slows the offense down. And then whenever we make a bucket, Indiana have the personnel to push against our poor defense sometimes. They can inbound the basketball and just get a cheap 2 points. That just kills you. That's a backbreaker. If you work real hard to get a bucket and the other team just throws it inbounds, and the next thing sometimes the TNT camera hasn't even got back to the play. No joke. Sometimes it's like OG gets this layup, they zoom in on somebody close up, and then when they zoom back out, it's TJ McConnell laying the ball up. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? What just happened? It's so fast they don't even, show the play. Sometimes it's just Obi Toppin leaking out as well. All of this is on film. The Knicks just not adjusting. But some of that is, credit to the Pacers. Their personnel, they're able to play to their strengths. Part of me thought a year ago that it wouldn't be able to hold up, because I thought in the playoffs you can't play that fast. You can't just push the pace. But Indiana are proving people wrong, because you can for parts. Yes, fourth quarter, 5 minutes to go, you can't really just throw the ball up and down like that. But for 3 quarters, you can. If you've got good looks, and you've got guys that can do it. So yeah, I think we need to look at our coaching situation. We do need to get some faster players as well, go deeper into the bench. Johnny says that the benches are the difference. Imagine if Carlisle coached the Knicks, Huck, Kolek, Dardier would be in the rotation. Probably over Cam right now. But I mean, even if you've got a veteran, we've got a better veteran than Cam, I feel like right now, which is DeLon Wright. He can defend, he can impact the game, he can switch. He's got a longer wingspan. He was probably hitting the open three better than Cam was when he was starting. But yeah, I think poor defensive philosophies, Johnny. Like, for example, this is a prime example of where Tibbs's philosophies are flawed. Who started when Brunson was out? Well, it wasn't Cam Payne, was it? It wasn't Deuce McBride. It was DeLon Wright, right? So your starting point guard is out through injury throughout the regular season, and he doesn't start the second string point guard. He doesn't start the third string point guard. He starts the fourth string point guard. Then when Brunson returns, the fourth string point guard that he started completely is a DNP now. Goes back to situational. Right. He has his decisions, obviously, but to me, there's not much logic in that, He'll start DeLon Wright when Brunson's out. When Brunson's back, DeLon Wright's not even in the rotation no more. So that's where it comes down to. I just don't understand what Tibbs is doing. Pre-game, his comments frustrated a lot of people as well. He was asked about the plus minus with the starters in the playoffs, with the starting unit minus 60. And obviously he's going to defend the starters. They got him to where he is right now, but he continues to sort of, dance around it. He continues to dance around the fact that the starting lineup is minus 60 in the postseason in their minutes. And he's just, it's just too late in the season for him to adjust. But he didn't look at it throughout the regular season. That's one of the biggest issues, man. Right now, Carlisle's adjusting and adapting. I think there's only one guy more stubborn than Tibbs, and it's Joe Mazzulla. And Tibbs sent him home, but only because I think Joe Mazzulla was even more stubborn than Tibbs, and it was too late for him to adjust because the Knicks stole game 1 and 2. Same as this series. Thibodeau, too late, too stubborn to adjust, like Joe Mazzulla. And guess what? Rick Carlisle is probably going to send him packing as well. So you only these games in a series are so quick. You only get a second to adjust mid-game. You got to do it. Otherwise it's just too late. You're down 0-2, and now you're forced to have to get desperate. Now he's probably going to make an adjustment. People will talk about it being a last-ditch desperation, man. Mario B says DeLon Wright, yet we need a spark. If I was the coach, I would look for a spark on the bench. Yeah, I think it's a case of just looking at the plus minus, the data throughout the season as well. Look at tonight, man. As I pull up the graphic, what frustrates me, man, is if we were dominated in 2 games or we were just god awful, I could understand. But we had control of two parts of two of these games that we gave away. Now the second half, Indiana, credit to them. I'm not taking any credit away. Indiana were the best team in the second half, but the Knicks didn't make the right lineup adjustment, and when they did, it was too late. Because the third quarter, we had a lead, 3 points, we gave it away straight away, man. And then he brought Mitch back into the game too late. But the second quarter, we failed to capitalize. We had that momentum. And then the halftime came and we just didn't go on with it, man. He went back to the starting unit once again. So that is it. You can't afford to give away a game, man. If you have control, you have that control. So if I pull up the box score, let's take a look at Josh Hart. The two guys that you could look at that need adjusting. Hart -10, Cat -20 in just a 5-point game. I mean, that's despicable, man. I know Cat has been solid offensively, hit some tough shots, but, still shot 42%, 40% from downtown. He's getting more threes up. 6 of 6 from the stripe. 7 rebounds, 2 offensive, but -20 with 20 points. So that's basically all the points he scored just given away. And it's a bad adjustment with it's a bad sort of mix with him and Indiana with how fast they play. -20 in a 5-point game is crazy. You can't win a game like that. -10 for Hart, who got benched for the first time in the playoffs. Tibbs getting desperate right now. So let's turn the page. My thoughts on the series so far, where things stand. Obviously, we're playing for our season right now, guys. Game 3 is equally more of a must-win. But if you just win one of the next two, the Knicks can just hopefully bury these two games now. Look at the film and look at all the things we did well. Look at the parts of the games where we could get some success and double down. Just double down on that. Execute and see what happens in Indianapolis, man. I'm not expecting to win, but I think there's a chance if we can stay in the game, be in the game at halftime, stay in it quarter by quarter. This team is good enough. They're good enough to hang with Indiana. If they can win one in Indiana, they force a game 5. Then obviously a game 5, it's going to be a raucous Madison Square Garden. Try to force a game 6 and put the pressure back on Indiana. So that's the only pathway forward that I see. If they were to go out and win both in Indiana, that would be absolutely insane. But it wouldn't shock me with how crazy things have been going. Injuries can happen. Game 1 was a miracle that we may never see again. But I think Indiana are going to be super confident, man, and it's a tough arena to play in the field house, right? The Knicks will be trying to avoid that sweep, trying to avoid a gentleman's sweep. Let's see what happens, man. There's only 1 day break. Game 3 is on Sunday. I think we're going to learn a lot about this team because they haven't been in this situation yet. They haven't lost 2 back-to-back games in the playoffs all season, all playoffs. So they know that their season is almost over. They're 2 losses away from Cancun. So how do they adjust? How do they adapt? Everything is going to be on the table, man. I expect Game 3 to be close. If you take away one silver lining, is that Indiana don't look like they can blow us out. Granted, both of these games are at Madison Square Garden, but the Knicks can play a good enough defensive lineups where they can have success against Indiana. So let's see if they can steal one on the road and we need to force a game 5, man. You take it from there. An injury can happen, things can open up. But as always, the Knicks are going to have to do it the hard way. They put themselves in this position. We'll see. D. Grant says when you're playing a 7-man, though, you're going to struggle. 7-man. It's going to be interesting to see, man. I think Tibbs might have to go DeLon Wright, get some fresh bodies out there. Huck, Precious, get some more switchable lineups, man. Just continue to switch. Force Indiana to shoot, just like Boston. They will have an off shooting night eventually. I think tonight they had a lot of success late because some of those threes were just wide open, man. Cat came back into the lineup. And once again, we botched a couple of the switches. The Turner corner 3, the Naismith above the break 3 as well was the big factor in this one, man. But bigger picture stuff, guys. Plenty of things to pop in the off season. The season ain't over for me yet. I'm going to let these guys see if they can fight their way out of this hole, this giant hole right now. The Knicks have been road warriors. They've been a better team on the road than they have at home. So that is the last, gasp straw that I'm holding on to right now. They've had some success throughout 2 stretches of these games. They've just failed to play the right lineups for an extended period and lose momentum in these ball games, right? But look, the series really would be 1-1. I think, let's say the series was 1-1, we would be expected to win a road game. So nothing has changed in that regard. I'm expecting them to try to, pull out a game on the road and actually do it, right? Actually do it. We won more games in Indiana this season. They had a hot finish, but right now, let's hope that they underestimate the Knicks. Let's hope that they think this is a sweep. Let's hope that they think that this is going to be a gentleman's sweep. Any way that they can let their guard down, I think, against a Knicks team that's going to be fighting for their life, might help us out. Knicks will be playing for a lot of pride in this one. But yeah, 25 years to get to this Eastern Conference Finals against Indiana again. This would be a serious failure, I think, if the Knicks were to lose this in any less than 6. Right, force a game 7. We could have different conversations because obviously the Knicks will have made some key adjustments. But if the Knicks lose this in 4 or 5, I mean, I know we beat Boston, but I would still change the coach. Coming into this series, you were favorites. Anything less than 7 games, we should be forcing Indiana to 7. So yeah, playing in Indiana, is definitely a different kettle of fish. And they're going to have to prove a lot of doubters wrong, so I'm going to be seeing, how, locked in they are and look at the tape, look at some things that they're able to capitalize on, close out on the shooters better. And I think, clean up these turnovers, right? If you clean up some of these turnovers, this game is a lot closer. We lose by 5. We lose game 1 by throwing it away. I mean, this thing would have been headed 5 regardless if we had won game 1, I feel. If it was 1-1 right now, this thing would be going 7. So let's hope the Knicks can pull a couple out, force a game 7. But Tibbs is going to have to make some adjustments, in my opinion. Get DeLon Wright out there, get Precious, and rest OG a little bit more. Precious can switch. Deuce McBride's going to have to hit some shots. Campaign out of the rotation for me. He's had his chance. Tonight was it for Campaign. But tough situation the Knicks find themselves in. Let's see what they bring on Sunday. Don't have a lot of time to stew on this one. So we get back at it on Sunday evening. I'm going to sign off. Appreciate everyone for rocking out with us, and a tough situation to be in as the Knicks lose 5 at home now in the postseason, and they're going to have to bring their lunch pail on the road and make some people eat some crow. But it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. Hopefully they can get game 3, That opens up a whole world of possibilities for a tough game 4. I think game 3 is the one you need to be laser focused. And let's hope that Indiana can get nervy, get a little bit ahead of themselves, and maybe the Knicks can steal one on the road, right? I'm trying to stay glass half full right now. If we lose game 3, though, it's pretty much a wrap. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, we'll get it on the next one, everyone. Salute to the squad. Salute to the chat. And let's see everyone on Sunday. And hopefully we can pull out a win on the road. And shout out Replay Squad. I see you. And credit to Indiana. They deserve their 2-0 lead. The Knicks threw game 1 away, and they're going to have to dig themselves out of this hole right now. OKC tomorrow, they can take a commanding 3-0 lead. They could get plenty of rest if they can close that series early. They'll be hoping that the Knicks can extend this series a bit further. We'll see how it plays out. But Carlisle out-coaching Tibbs so far, and the Knicks starters, the plus-minus is a killer right now. Cat, Hart, I think Brunson had a so-so game. OG, offensively, we need to see more from him. Bridges was solid two-way. But Tibbs, continue to play Mitch more minutes. Get Deuce out there. Get Delon right. Get Precious. And let's go from there. That's my major adjustments. As Larson says, Knicks need to pull out a rabbit. That's it. You just treat game 3 as your season. Like laser focus and just game 3. If we can just stay in the game as it goes, I think we can give ourselves a chance down the stretch, clean up these botched assignments. Look, playoff ball swings, sometimes some of the luck goes all Indiana and then it's going to swing. Maybe the Knicks get some major luck. We are going to need everything. We're going to need some luck. We're going to need some hot shooting, maybe a favorable whistle, whatever it takes to get game 3. Then things open back up, fam, as well, to extend this series. It was never going to be easy. I was kind of hoping Minnesota would, put up a fight against OKC because my heart was really set on the Knicks advancing, My heart was set on, advancing and getting to the finals and maybe giving themselves a chance against OKC. But right now, how it looks, I think OKC look far and above most teams still here. So far, maybe Indiana, the team that can give them the best stretch because they're fresh. They've got a deeper rotation, but they're going to have to get past these Knicks first. They're going to have to close out the Knicks, and they'll be looking to try to close the Knicks out early as well. So let's see how it all plays out. Enjoy this one, Indiana fans. You stole game 1. It really should be 1-1, but the Knicks have themselves to blame. They've got to look in the mirror. They had a big Neesmith Halliburton game 1. Tonight they had a big Siakam game. They seem to get contributions from all of their guys, and somebody on the Knicks really needs to step up and steal a game and take it by the horns. Let's see how that plays out. But yeah, when teams get desperate, then you start to see a different level, different level of intensity, different level of focus. The Knicks will have to play like their season's on the line, but it might not be enough. It might be too little too late. Indiana crowd is going to be, tough. I don't know. If you're a conspiracy theorist, maybe you're the NBA, you want this series to go a little longer. By the way, game 1 was the highest rated Eastern Conference Finals, game 1, all the way back since 2018, when it was Cavs Celtics, I think. Cavs Celtics back in 2018. So the NBA's loving this series. I think this is by far the most exciting series, but it's 0-2, what happens next? Let's find out. Bless up. Try to stay positive, but let's see what happens on the road. And advantage Indiana. The Knicks are a lousy home team right now. It's disappointing. They'll be hoping to force a game 5, and that's all I'm focused on right now. Peace out.